First of all, let me say how pleased I am to have this ministerial meeting in Sofia, starting with the foreign ministers the work under the Bulgarian presidency. And obviously, the first point we have on our agenda is the work we do with the Western Balkans, which is top priority for the Bulgarian presidency, but also for the entire European Union institutions. It will be the first chance for the foreign ministers to discuss the strategy on the Western Balkans that we just presented last week in Strasbourg at the European Parliament. And we will see how to work to strengthen the EU perspectives of the region, but also we'll start working on the preparation of the summit that we'll have here in Sofia. The day after, which means tomorrow, we'll also have the candidate countries here, and in particular, I would say with the Western Balkans, we'll discuss with them about one of the flagship initiatives we've presented in the strategy, the work on security and defense, which is a field very important for our cooperation. So this is going to be the main topic for our ministerial. We'll also discuss Syria with the foreign ministers. We are preparing the second Brussels conference for the future of Syria and the region. First of all, from a humanitarian point of view. The war is still going on in the country. The humanitarian situation is still a dramatic one, and we aim at mobilizing humanitarian support for Syrians both inside the country and in the neighboring countries, and namely in Jordan, in Lebanon, and in Turkey. I discussed this with the UN Secretary General a couple of days ago in Kuwait, and we will co-chair this conference between the European Union and the United Nations. So with the ministers we'll discuss about how to mobilize this humanitarian support, but also how to use the convening power of the European Union to support the UN-led political process that, as you know, is facing difficult moments in these weeks. We'll also have a point on DPRK. We have seen encouraging steps during the Olympic Games. I know that the attention of the public opinion on the Olympic Games has now moved to sport, which is relevant as well. But at a certain moment, the Olympic Games will end, and the European Union is ready to continue its work, first of all with our partners, with South Korea, with the United States, with Japan, but also with Russia and China, to have a strong pressure on the PRK. We have a very tough system of sanctions in place, but also to engage on the diplomatic track. I discussed this with a South Korean foreign minister just before the beginning of the Olympic Games, and with Secretary Tillerson the day before yesterday in Kuwait. So we'll have a discussion about how to increase the level of work of the European Union to help finding a solution for the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. I've seen President Macron's statement that seemed to me more related to the issue of chemical weapons. Let me say that as European Union, we've always been extremely firm, first of all in our support to the work of the UN system to monitor eventual use of chemical weapons, and we have always believed that any movement on that side, on that level, has to be monitored and followed up in the UN system in the most serious manner. And the European Union has always been a strong supporter of the work of the organization that monitors the use of chemical weapons. This is extremely serious. And when I mentioned the fact that the humanitarian situation, the situation on the ground in Syria, is far from being solved and going better, I refer to the ongoing fights that are still happening, and the fact that civilians are still targeting in many parts of Syria. And this is something the world should not forget. The European Union for sure doesn't forget this. I have to say that in these years, not only in these months, but in these years, if there is one field where the European Union and its member states are speaking with one voice, are singing the same song, and most importantly are acting together, is foreign and security policy. On defense, that was self-evident with the decisions we have taken in the course of this last year. With the launch of the permanent structured cooperation, we have launched finally the European defense. In Syria, for the second year in a row, we are the ones organizing the major humanitarian but also political conference to try to support the future of Syria and support in the region. Yesterday, I was in Kuwait chairing together with the UN Secretary General the conference on the reconstruction of Iraq, where the European Union is a leading player, not only from a humanitarian but also from a political and security point of view. If you look at Libya, if you look at the work we're doing with the Sahel countries, where we're hosting the high-level conference at the end of this next week in Brussels. If you look around you, the Europeans are speaking and most importantly acting together as one. The real thing is that the world is not moving in the right direction. We see a proliferation of conflicts. It is true, many of them do not find a solution, as we are trying to find a solution to these conflicts. You can blame it on the European Union, you can blame it on the UN, you can blame it on the US, you can blame it on the international system. We're doing our part, and let me say, if the European Union was not there with its humanitarian, development, political, diplomatic, security work, the situation in many parts of the world would be much, much worse. I know this is not satisfaction, but I have to say I'm satisfied with the level of unity that member states are proving in the field of foreign and security policy. Then on the internal issues, it's another story. Thank you. I'll see you.